Welcome to the Principal Podcast, where we talk about how the best professional services firms grow. Whether you're looking to scale your firm or learn from the stories of founders and leaders who've done it, you're in the right place. Join us as we interview the best leaders in professional services. Let's get on with the show.
We're on with Javier Castillo Gil, who is the founder and managing director of the Morphing Group. Very interesting company we're going to hear about, but it's always best to let the guest tell us about his company versus me trying to explain it. So, Javier, tell me, what got you into the consulting business, and how did your experience in all your outside ventures you have done, all the different 25 years of experience, lead to you working with CEOs in leadership development today?
Right. Well, thank you for having me, Dennis. What led me here? I happen to be a computer systems engineer that got involved at some point in helping at the beginning of the standardized testing were being systematized. You know, the DISC assessment, Hogan assessment, all of those that we use today. At that time, they were not in a system. And I started learning a little about how humans can be mapped and behavior can be interpreted by a system. And one thing led to another, and I started working with leaders in assessing them, understanding behavior, understanding human interactions, teams interactions. I worked for probably the first 8 years of my career in corporate offices in different businesses, different industries. Okay. And I had the benefit of working with a company that was a holding company, and we had everywhere from anything from insurance, stockbroker markets, agrobiotechnology, bakeries, instant messaging, and he had the owner had a vast amount of companies, and I was always drawn by how different every business is in the business model. Right. But how the same problem was repeated with the people, with teams. It was the same problem, different business, different industry. So at some point I decided I like doing this, working with different teams and helping them understand. That's how I got into consulting.
The good thing about that is when you do it, every day is different. I mean, you can work with one company and they have their set of challenges, even though there's what you might call modeling, and there's similarities you see. The uniqueness of every individual and or group makes the job entertaining. That's why we do it, I think. And I find that personal challenge really rewarding. So for you, as you look at what problems you solve within these companies, what does it mean for you to go in there and help solve these problems?
Many companies, to me personally, what I like is that they have all the pieces. And sometimes they're looking for off-the-shelf solutions, and to your point, I think that's very important. The dynamic of a team depends on the elements that conform it. So there's no two teams alike, and whenever you mix 7-10 people in a group, that you're going to have a different outcome. So I started finding out that giving people time to explore what are our differences, how do we communicate better, etc. They find out that it's not really that they don't get along, or it's not really that they can work. They just never took the time to stop, get to some agreements, and set the basis for actual productive, effective work. That's very, that fulfills me a lot when I take a team like that and they find out that they can actually work much better than they were working without getting, everyone would suggest, well, we need to get rid of this person. Right. Not necessarily. Sometimes it's just, you got to listen.
Well, I think part of what you said too, and you mentioned you have DISC and some other personality evaluations, it teaches you a lot about how to read people and who communicates well with who else. And you don't know that sometimes it isn't that they're not compatible, they're just matched up with the wrong person to work with. And if you can switch the dynamics of a team sometimes, you all of a sudden see harmony. And it's amazing how that stuff is pretty accurate. I'm glad you utilize that. With your clients today, who are your ideal customers? Let's break it down into a couple areas. Number one, size of the company. do you work with individuals or just small teams, or do you go to a company, a large corporation like your background was, and then you break it into within that company departments that you specialize and go, hey, I'm going to work with manufacturing here, I'm going to work with IT here, I'm going to work with marketing within a large company. So how do you figure out who your clients are based on what you do well?
Well, I guess I haven't. Let me put it. Let me put it like this. I know we can work with any industry, including government. I don't like it very much working with governmental institutions because they are a little constrained on what you can do. But other than that, we have work across industries. That's not usually the way I slice it. To your point, I would say size matters. I have worked with big companies like Coca-Cola and MetLife, etc. But I like working with the top teams. So I wouldn't work with a company that's, I don't know, I do have a client now that's 15,000 employees, but I focus on the first 2 or 3 levels. I like working with the top team because honestly, if they don't start doing things different, it's difficult to make it work from the bottom up. Those kind of things you have.
It's next to impossible. I understand that. I mean, and so what happens is if someone brings you in, if they want you to come in and do an event, great. But if you want to change a culture, you are the ones who have to make that happen, and I'll work with you to then educate you and teach you how to do it. I imagine that's a path that you probably go ahead and pursue.
And if you want it to stick, definitely, because in the end, the leader projects whatever culture. Culture, aside from being a poster somewhere that someone can read, it has to do with the behaviors we observe in our leaders. And the more visible you are as a leader, let's say the CEO and then the next level, is more. It screams out to people what the culture here is. Now to your question previously, just to make it clear, I do work with smaller companies, and I do have a lot of companies of, 100 employees, 200 employees. I like those better in the sense that, to what you're saying, to change a culture is easier because you have very few people that can actually move a needle. But honestly, those companies are still in a low, let's say, they are not as evolved as they need to be. They haven't aged enough. They still lack certain processes. So we focus in on other things. The sweet spot for me would be probably anywhere between 1,000 and 1,500, 2,000 employees. That's kind of the sweet spot that I found out that we make a lot of impact, and still the company is something that we can work with.
Good. And no doubt you probably go after all the people in the C-suite that's your target. Yeah. So when you do that, who do you find makes most of the decisions? Let's take that sweet spot for you, that 1,000 to 2,000 company. Who makes the decision more often than not to bring you in? What level are they?
Usually the decision is made by the CEO. The one that starts the conversation tends to be the CHRO. Because, and I think this is wrong, when a CEO thinks that he needs to work on team building or team alignment or culture, they think, oh, this is an HR thing.
HR issue.
And they hand it to HR. But I always push to speak with the CEO. And I always ask the CHRO, do you have the sponsorship of the CEO? Because if you don't, then there's nothing I can do. I mean, this is not an HR project.
No, it doesn't look like it from what you do, from what I've understood so far. So when you are trying to brand and market yourself, the Morphing Group, how do you do that? Do you do it through referrals, direct email campaign? Do you do it through LinkedIn? What is the way you get best noted and identified as a potential help for a company? What's the methodology?
That's something that we the partners, we have 2 other offices. I manage the one in the US. I have another partner in Mexico managing Latin America, and another partner in Barcelona managing Europe. And the strategy, I would say, is a little different. because we have a stronger network in Europe and in Latin America, so referrals have worked really nice over there.
Okay.
Here in the US, it's more by cold outreach, or, I mean, we do have referrals, but that's not really what's tracking. What's tracking usually is LinkedIn, cold outreach, podcasts, or whatever, or kind of noise that we can make. It's a huge market, and there's a lot of competition, so you need to stand out.
Yep, you do. So you had mentioned podcasts. Have you explored doing podcasts before as a way to market?
They offer me, and I tell you, I love this media. I don't think I have the the span of time and mostly the time to actually get into it and do it right. I'm the kind of person that likes to do things right, and I just don't find how I can deal with that.
Well, you know, I've learned a bunch about podcasting since I've been involved in it, and once you kind of start to think about, you already know it. No, you don't, and then you got to figure it out again. But it's a wonderful medium, and it is something that you know, people are getting more and more used to, in particular because Javier can't be everywhere. I mean, and so when you can magnify your exposure, in particular in the U.S. market you're talking about, it's one thing to put in the back of your mind. So more professional services like you guys are doing podcasting. They're investing in it. How do you think, if you were involved in trying to target market somewhere, a podcast could benefit you or your current marketing campaign?
I think in the end, what we do has to do with thought leadership. And I do think that what we do aligns pretty well with the podcast media. I think it does, because it adds a lot of value. Now, I believe that many of the things that we end up when we are presenting our services to a potential client, many of the things that we end up saying, I would love to just broadcast it out loud and say, guys, pay attention to this, because this, you know, whatever is happening now with AI or how alignment is critical. I hear your point. I do think this is a great media with a lot of strengths, and I think that with this market, this size, there's no way you're going to be everywhere if you want to really get that outreach. Yeah.
Yep. And if you're trying to grow, I mean, if you're already well established in Latin America and in Europe, this is obviously your task to try and make the domestic and the U.S. Do you also go after a Canadian market too?
We have served, and I have done projects in Canada, but the jewel of the crown is really making a dent in the U.S. That's. I mean, if something comes out of Canada, we will take it. But honestly, I know that it's a bonus. That's it.
Yep. Did I see you're in Tampa?
I'm in Tampa. Yeah.
Yep, I'm just right up the road. I'm up north of Orlando, so we get our afternoon showers are coming through right now. So it's always this time of year. But anyway, so when you have an initial engagement with the CEO before they then contract to work with you, what's that normal selling cycle look like?
The selling cycle, well, I would say it depends on again, the maturity of the company, but there's, in my experience with this type of work, and I think, you know, from my profile, I used to work in Conferry. I managed the advisory division as well. So this selling cycle, I've seen it even when I was in a big company that has a lot of brand. You get to more clients, but the selling cycle is slow. And the thing is that the service that we're selling, and I'm not talking the basics like assessments or coaching. Right. Those are product based. The consulting based, it's usually I'm trying to sell you something that you don't know you need. So that takes time. The client comes to us with a need, and they think that they know what they need, but once you start getting information, you have then to challenge them and say, look, you're measuring an effect, not the cost. The real cost of your problem is this one. Now they have to go back and, you know, rethink, etc. And obviously, it's not going to be a simple solution of one workshop and we're done. It usually requires more time. and budget-wise tends to be higher. So all of those things push back the decision.
Delay it.
Yeah, it's basically, I would say, an average of 6 months. It could be in 3 months we're done. With the decision. Sometimes it would go up to 6. I have clients that have been thinking for a year, and now they're coming back saying, "Now we get it. Now we want it." After a year of, going forward with it.
Do you have to go through SOWs? Here's what the scope's going to be, and everything else, and lay it out for them. And then, are there contracts involved with what you guys, when you work with them? Is it 6 months? Is it a year? Or is it when the project is finished?
So it depends, but most of the services are project-based, so we can lay it up in a specific timeline and say, these are the stages, this is where we're going to deliver, these are the deliverables. And usually we have a contract, depending on the company. Some of them are very strict about what has to be signed, etc., and we do it that way. But if not, we would at least sign a statement of work and what are the steps that are going to be taken and the deliverables and the cost.
Okay.
And that's we do have a couple of clients that we are working around the year, and we continue to work with them. That's a different thing. We do have to sign other things with them, and that's more complicated projects.
When you work with a client, and obviously you take time to secure one, 3 months, 6 months, whatever that time frame is, it's not a short sell. It takes some time. You want to retain them, no doubt about it. So do you have a contract allows it to be either re-upped, renewed, or potentially at the end of it, there's a 30-day period where you negotiate to try and extend it, whatever it may be. How do you guys retain your clients? What do you think is the strategy best suited to retain your customers? Don't worry. I have dogs. I get it.
Sorry.
No worries.
So retention strategy. So there's a couple of things there. What you were asking, whether we sign or not. When we have a contract that's gonna move from a year.
You got the little guy and the big guy going now.
Yeah, the little guy gets the big guy upset.
Exactly.
And take to each other. I'm sorry for that.
No worries. I understand dogs very well, so
yeah. Well,
don't worry. Let's help someone else. Hopefully, is getting them, and we'll be good.
All right.
So so go ahead and continue. So you were saying that for retention strategy.
So for retention, I would say it's first of all. I think I said this at the beginning. I don't like selling what the client is asking for. I like telling them what they actually need, and that for me is the first strategy of retention. You don't accept a work that you know it's not gonna be useful for the client. Correct. Just because the client is asking for it. It happens a lot that they say, no, what I want is this, and say, yeah, but that's not gonna solve your problem. I would rather say no. And avoid you telling me later, 6 months later, that it didn't.
Why didn't you tell me?
Yeah. So that's, to me, there is where you start the relationship with the client. Is I'm going to tell you what you need, what I believe, and if I'm in disagreement with you, let's leave it at that. It's not a problem. I'm not going to sell you mirrors and tell you that it's going to work. But that's just something that we tell our consultants is don't tell the client yes until we are certain that that's the solution they need. The other part of it, and has to do with the long term, is every deliverable has to be matched with the client's expectations, and we do follow up with the client saying, all right, we finished this part. Is it up to the expectation you had? What worked? Or not? So it's trying to reinforce to them that they're receiving the value that they're
looking for, and that you and more or less what you guys agreed to. So when you're selling that, interesting, Javier, because when you said the client will come to you and they're going to tell you, here's what we need, without really realizing that they may need something else. So when do you sell that, or do you have people in your team who sells it? Your services, how does that work? Because you obviously understand the dynamics of what you can and cannot deliver. Have you got a team of people who meet with the client, or do you meet with the client?
Whenever it's whenever it's not product based, we have certain, let's say, off the shelf product based that the rest of the team can sell it. Whenever it looks like something that's going to be more complex, like a real cultural transformation or changing the whole alignment of the leadership teams, etc., they can pitch the beginning or they can entertain a client, but then the agreement with the partners is at least one partner has to be in one of the meetings with the client, and they like that a partner is joining the meeting, and we ask the questions and we try to make sure that we are giving the right results.
Because the interesting thing then is what you're doing is you're creating a need with your questions, not uncovering a need. When the client tells you what they want, it's uncovering a need. And then when you do it, it's creating the need. This is great. We got not only the dogs, but the gardener. I love it. But it's interesting. You know what? That's what life's all about, Javier.
Yeah.
I mean, if we so I'm cool, so don't worry about it. So where do you see the biggest opportunity for your company looking not only for the balance of this year, but going into the future? Where do you see your growth?
Well, definitely the U.S. is a market that we're trying to amplify.
Right.
The problem that I find with the U.S. has to do with the volume. It's a happy problem, but the volume might be something that gets us in a little trouble. Just trying to be able, if we really hit it the way we are trying to do. So our growth, we have, I was telling you earlier, we have, let's say, product-based solutions that are, let's say, less customizable or more repeatable.
Shelf products.
Yeah, more shelf. And that is probably something that we're looking to sell more in the U.S. and use the consulting, the expertise consulting as something that we're going to be selling depending on our ability to penetrate the market. Europe is really slow, The war over there and everything that's going on in Europe, it's been slow for a couple of years now. And Latin America is growing. Actually, I'm a bit surprised. Latin America is growing a lot. There's a lot of companies moving over there. There's a lot of business coming in, even from the U.S. going into Mexico and Central America. It's interesting.
That's wonderful.
Yeah, so it's a mix of focusing a little more on product-based solutions in the U.S. and trying to see what we're going to do to reinforce the European market.
Okay. So the consultancy isn't his primary focus in the U.S., but the products are going to be more. And once again, that's going to be a method of how you can deliver that message, I would imagine. So that's a critical part. Yeah. So even with the dogs and the lawnmower, we've spent now 25 minutes, and I really enjoyed the conversation. I hope you have as well, Javier.
I have.
And I want to say sit tight for a little bit afterwards and chat with you. But the one thing that I want to make sure is you get a chance to tell our audience here where they can reach you, the best way to reach you and or your partners, your team. If you would share that, I'd appreciate that. Sure.
The easiest way to reach me is by email. It's javier.castillo@morphing.guru. Now, so I wrote that book with one core concept, which has to do that leaders focus so much on delivering results today that they forget that you're also accountable for delivering results tomorrow when you're not in the room, when you're gone from the company. And I discuss that with every leader is companies are supposed to last 20, 50, 100 years. None of us are going to last that long.
No.
So unless you understand as a leader that you're not meant to be in that position for very long, and if you ask them, are you planning to stay here 30 years? Most people now will tell you, no, I'm going to stay in this position in 5 years or, I don't know, 6, 7, 10. Well, what's going to happen when you're gone? Because half of your salary is for you to develop the people that you have, the infrastructure, the processes, so that when you leave, something is left there and results can continue.
It's like a parent with their children. I mean, you try and make sure they have all the right behavior and model to follow, but you're not going to be around forever, and hopefully you've done your job, so they pass that on as well. Just like in a company, it's the same thing. I like that. I'm going to look into your book. I think that's fabulous. I like the idea behind it. Yeah, so once again, everybody remember, it's Javier, Javier, Castillo, Castillo, at Morphing, Morphing.guru, Guru. Javier, I really enjoyed the conversation.
Me too.
It's been fascinating. I've enjoyed a lot. And I love the fact that we fought through it like troopers, no matter what was the background.
Yeah, I apologize for that.
No
It's
apology
Morphy's
needed.
law. It had to happen.
That's right, exactly. It's how you morph, exactly.
Yeah.
All righty. Thank you, Javier.
All right. Take care.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Principal Podcast. We hope you've learned valuable lessons and strategies to grow your firm and take your business to the next level. Make sure to subscribe and leave us a review wherever you're listening to this show so you never miss an episode. To apply and be a guest on the show, click the link in the description. See you next time.